In a previous lesson, we talked about 5 different properties of operations, but I wanted to look a little more closely at just the distributive property because the people who make the STAR test really like the distributive property. So I wanted to start first by talking about the word distribute. If I said I was going to distribute your STAR charts, that means I'm going to hand them out to everybody. I'm going to give them out. So distribute just means to give out. And I have this little picture. We've got this these two people, maybe they're friends or something, and they're going to an ice cream shop. And so they walk in, they both want ice cream. And so the person needs to distribute the ice cream to both people. If they were just to give the ice cream to the first person that walked in, then this friend over here is going to be disappointed because he also wants ice cream. So they also need to distribute the ice cream to him. And so we see over here, they're still both there, the friends together. She's got her ice cream, he's got his ice cream. So it got distributed to both of them. And that's kind of how the distributive property works in math. We've got this expression down here, 6, and then parentheses, x plus 2. Remember, when that 6 is right next to the parentheses, it means multiplication. And so we're going to distribute that multiplication. So distribute multiplication. And that multiplication, that number that we're multiplying by is on the outside of the parentheses. So we're going to distribute that multiplication that's on the outside to each term on the inside. And when we say term, we just mean these things that are being added or subtracted. So it could be variables, it could be numbers, it could have a variable and a number in it, but it needs to be distributed to each one. In here we have 2 terms, and most of the ones you're going to see in 6th grade have 2 terms, but it could be more than 2 terms. So we draw an arrow from the 6 to the first term, the x, and then from the 6 to the second term, the 2. Because those look like those hoppy arrows that we've done in other problems, I call this hippity-hoppity distributive property. So the first arrow is the hippity, and a lot of people mess up on the distributive property because they just do the hippity. So remember, it's hippity-hoppity. So the second arrow is the hoppity. You don't want to forget that one. So hippity and then hoppity. So when we do 6 times x, that just gives us 6x. You'll remember we looked at something the other day where we said if the 6 is right next to the x, that means multiplication. So we've multiplied the 6 times the x, and then for the hoppity, we do 6 times 2, which gives us the 12. Sometimes they may just write 6 times 2 there and 6 times x, but that's the final answer. Okay, so let's look at some examples. So here we have 2 being multiplied times x plus 7. So you always want to draw your arrows, your hippity and your hoppity. So 2 times x is going to give us 2x. The plus sign, or if it's a minus sign, is always just going to stay the same. And then we distribute this 2 to the 7, the hoppity, right? So 2 times 7 is 14. So we end up with 2x plus 14. If this was a multiple choice question on STAR, they're going to give you the answer 2x plus 7, because that would be if you only did the hippity and then you just left the plus 7. So just don't forget hippity and hoppity. Okay, 3 multiplied by 2x minus 1. So draw your hippity-hoppity distributive property arrows. If we do 3 times 2, that would give us 6. So 3 times 2x is going to give us 6x. Again, the sign just stays the same, so this time it's subtraction. And then we don't want to forget the hoppity. So 3 times 1 is going to be 3. The next one is x on the outside. So it could be a variable on the outside. X multiplied by 2 plus y. So draw your arrows, hippity-hoppity, distributive property. X times 2. Now, we might want to be tempted to just put x and next to a 2, but then that makes it look like it's saying times 2. So whenever you have a number being multiplied by a variable, the number always goes first. So x times 2 and 2 times x are the same thing, so they're both going to be 2x. My plus sign is going to stay the same, and then we want to do the hoppity. So x times the y, and Again, if we just put them next to each other, that means multiplication. So 2x plus xy. Okay, the last one looks a little bit different because we have a fraction on the outside. But remember that if you find half of something, you're cutting it in half. You're dividing it by 2. So we're literally just finding half of 8x and then half of 4y. So half of 8x would just be 4x. My plus sign is going to stay the same. And half of 4y would just be 2y. So our answer is 4x plus 2y.